Salutations, respected viewers. This is George from Ireland, and I'm in front of the Sir Joseph Bazalgette Memorial. It's very suitably located right beside the Thames Embankment. So behind me, behind that wall, is the Thames. You can't see it from this angle, I'm afraid. Ooh, maybe you can if I go like that. No, you can't. So he was the engineer of the London drainage system. So until the 1860s, the Thames was largely an open sewer. People were throwing their ordure into it, and people's excrescence was thrown into the streets, and sometimes there are many lost rivers of London. They're just all built over, they're underground now. The Fleet River, the River Wandle is largely underground. Fleet Street takes its name from that one. The River Brent is mainly underground. There are quite a few others, the names don't spring to mind. And they're all tributaries of the Thames, and so obviously household waste, excrement and all the rest was going in there. So one time it just clogged up. They called it the Great Stink, and the stench was so ghastly that Parliament adjourned. They moved somewhere else. They were no longer going to stay here, and so the upper class decided something must be done about it. This is the 1860s, when the upper class had the right to vote, maybe the upper middle class, the lower middle class no, the working class no. By that stage, perhaps some 20% of the population, men that is, had the right to vote. And then Bazalgette in the 1860s was commissioned to build the embankment. So the Thames is about twice as wide as it is now. In London, the Thames might be 300 metres wide at its widest point. And back then, it would have been more like 600 metres wide. So the Thames is quite narrow at certain points. That's why we built London Bridge and Tower Bridge and various others at fairly narrow points where it wasn't liable to flood. But they obviously had to leave a bit of a floodplain as well as the actual riverbank. That's why just south of the Thames near Waterloo, that's why nothing was built on that low-lying land there, because it's very liable to inundation. Anyway, in the 1860s, he built up the embankment. He reclaimed a lot of land. That's why there's the Embankment Gardens. So Bazalgette, you can see, the Latin inscription up top. He put chains on the river. What was I going to say? He didn't literally chain the river, but he limited the river by building the embankment. And you can see the various symbols here: set, square, and compasses. A shield up top. Just trying to think, musical instruments, things like that. Symbols of culture, because he had to measure things with his set, square, and compasses. The spade for the work. I'm not sure what the rest of them dolphins, so they'd come up the Thames. So then his great-grandson is a television executive, I think of Channel 4, and as Stephen Fry memorably said, that Bazalgette's great-grandson pumps the shit back into London that his great-grandfather had pumped out in terms of pap on television. So behind me is the Embankment Garden, so that dates from the 1860s. Obviously it took several years to complete the embankment and push the Thames back. There's much more flooding because there was no Thames flood relief barrier. That was only the early 80s that was constructed, and this is an estuary, so the sea is coming in each day all the way down to just beyond Twickenham, all the way down to Teddington. That's the tidal Thames. The sea water coming in as well as river water coming down, and in heavy rains that would cause flooding. We also have various other flood relief channels further up the Thames, like around Windsor, to try and stop it flooding down here. That's enough about Bazalgette.